Hey Facebook family, it's Wednesday. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks Facebook Live at 5. I've got a couple of very important asks, ASKS, for you guys today. So do me a favor and please share this on your timeline so that others can hear and share this very important request that I'm going to be making during this broadcast today. I actually have two requests that are super important, and I want as many people as possible to hear this ask and to share this ask. And not only just share it, but also to do it, right? There's some things that are going on right now that are important to the very life, if you will, of some folks. And I need everybody to get engaged and get involved, right? Because, you know, oftentimes folks come on my page and, you know, we fuss and we cuss and we talk about the things that need to change, but we're not willing to take a second or two to be a part of that change, right? And so I've got some things I need you guys to do, and it's really important. So I want you to share this, and I'm going to say this a couple of times throughout the broadcast. I'm going to repeat this ask, ASK. I don't want you to think I'm saying something else. I'm going to repeat this ask so that I'm going to repeat the share request, if you will, so that you share this on your timeline. And then I want you to do this thing, and I want everyone who knows, listen, I got 5,000 Facebook followers, right? I'm going to put this up on my YouTube. I've got another close to 5,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube. I talked about this yesterday on my podcast. So I'm reaching out everywhere I can to try to get this information known. And I'm doing this because it's important. And I'm asking you to do this because it's important. Okay? So welcome to everybody. Hey, John. Welcome to everybody who's here with me. Hey, D. Arlene, I appreciate you, sis. Ready to make that spread. I appreciate you. Welcome. A couple of things I'm going to do I wanted to make you aware of. I shared this on my Facebook timeline about appearing on an episode in the UK of a segment on their Discovery channel, Discovery UK. I'm pretty excited about that. That's not the first time that I've been featured over there in the UK, and I get real excited when folks from the other side of the pond reach out to me and let me know that they know I exist over here and that I'm doing the best that I can, right? So I did a segment on a show called Faking It, Tears of a Crime, and this particular episode was a two-part deal in that the first segment talked about the Scott Peterson, I believe it was Scott Peterson murder. Many of you know that story. He shot and, well, his wife disappeared. Lacey Peterson disappeared, and he was ultimately convicted of her murder. That's the first story. The second story is the story of an LAPD veteran by the name of Stephanie Lazarus, and I've done narrations on her previously. Hey, Daryl. I've done narrations on her on other crime shows. It Takes a Killer. I forget the name of the other one that I did, but nonetheless, I've done a couple of episodes, narrations, if you will, on Stephanie Lazarus. And so the UK Discovery Channel wanted to do a story on Stephanie Lazarus. I'm going to upload that video of the entire segment when I'm done here. Hey, Tony. When I'm done here, and you'll have an opportunity to watch the whole show if you like, or just watch the second half, because that's the best half, right? If I must say so myself. It starts at about, I don't know, 21, 26 minutes into the video with the story of Stephanie Lazarus. So I'll be putting those two up. If you haven't had an opportunity, please do subscribe and listen to my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, on the platform of your choosing, iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and others. You can find me there. So please do, and tell a friend. So let's get to the first ask. Share this on your timeline, everybody, because I need everybody to do this. This is time sensitive, and so there's just a very small window in which we can be effective, and I believe that we can if we make a concerted effort in this regard. And this is with regards to Cyntoia Brown. Many of you may know the story of Cyntoia Brown. She was a 16-year-old who was charged and tried as an adult for killing a gentleman, shouldn't say gentleman, but for killing a man who preyed on her in her youth and got her involved in sex trafficking, right? She ultimately killed him. She was convicted at 16. She's been in prison ever since. This happened in 2006, I believe, 2006. And so right now, up until the governor leaves his post, which is January 19th of next year, he is considering granting Cyntoia Brown clemency. So I'm asking that everyone contact Governor Bill Haslam and request that he grant clemency to Cyntoia Brown, who is now 30 years old. Now, the way it stands right now, there was some discussion. She appeared at a parole hearing on May 23rd, and the board was split 2-2-2 with regards to 2 members supported the sentence that she was given of 51 years, right? 2 board members were opposed to that 51-year prison sentence, and 2 other board members thought, well, you know, let her do 25 years and then she can maybe be eligible for parole. So it's very important that we reach out to Governor Haslam, who's considering. Don't know what this next governor might do with regards to Cyntoia Brown, but Governor Bill Haslam is considering clemency, and he will do that up until the 19th of January. So I wanted to share with you some contact information, so there's really no reason. This is going to cost you nothing but a couple of minutes. No reason not to reach out to the governor. Now listen, he has a Facebook page. His Facebook page is Bill Haslam, Haslam. So you can start to type in his name and it will populate if you put the @ sign in front of his name, and you can reach out to him on Facebook. He has a Twitter account for those of you who tweet. Bill Haslam is his contact information on Twitter. And then the governor's office. The telephone number is 651-741-2001. So my hope is that everyone who hears my voice will share this request with everyone that you know, and have them share it with everyone that they know, and then act. This is a call to action on behalf of Cyntoia Brown. And you know, there are celebrities who are involved in this ask. Kim Kardashian and Rihanna are also working behind the scenes to get this young lady out of prison. She's been in jail since she was 16. She's 30. I think she's paid her debt to society, and I think that, you know, if prison is about rehabilitation and not so much about punishment, then, you know, we should give this young woman an opportunity to have some life and not have to wait 25 more years. I mean, the best part of her life would be gone, right? There's so many things that she would miss out on between 30 and, you know, add another 15 or so years to her life. And listen, there's no guarantee when you go before a parole board that at that time they're going to let you out. They may make you come through several more times before they actually grant you parole. So, very easy ask, very easy to do. Contact the Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam and ask for clemency, that clemency be granted for Cyntoia Brown. We have until now and January 19th. So I'm mentioning it today. Get started. But for those of you who like to procrastinate, I'm going to remind you again on next Wednesday to please do this thing. And again, please share this with everyone that you know. This is so important. This young lady's life literally is in our hands. And listen, you have seen what we can do when we put our minds to it. We've seen the kinds of things that we can get overturned, the kinds of reform, if you will, that gets enacted when we make our voices heard. So, Governor Bill Haslam, Tennessee Governor, contemplating granting clemency to Cyntoia. Please contact him. Again, on Facebook at Bill Haslam, on Twitter at Bill Haslam, and the office again, Governor's office is area code 615-741-2001. So now I want to give you a little bit of an update, and I'm going to try to share a link with you for those of you who may or may not have heard the story. I don't know how anyone could not know about this particular story, but this is an update on what's going on with the young lady over in Brooklyn by the name of Jasmine Hedley, 23-year-old Jasmine. Remember, a few days ago they showed the officers who work there in the Human Resource Administration and NYPD officers wrestling and tussling with this woman over her 1-year-old child. Well, thankfully, the charges were dropped against Jasmine Hedley, and DA Eric Gonzalez is to be credited for that. He dropped the charges, which were resisting, obstruction of justice. You know, those are the two things, those are the go-to things that officers like to charge you with when they put hands on you and they've got nothing else, but they got to take you to jail for something because they just can't leave you there, right? Too much liability associated with that. Even though there's liability down the road, nonetheless, they had to take her to jail. So they booked her for resisting obstruction of justice and acting in a manner injurious to a child. Now, those same charges could, you know, fit very well for those officers acting in a manner that was injurious to a child. But nonetheless, and I also want to mention Eric Adams, who is a former NYPD officer, 22-year veteran, who held a news conference with regards to this incident, and I'm sure that that had some weight in the decision to drop any and all charges against this young woman. And again, I mentioned Mayor de Blasio. I was wondering where he is, and so I have to say that he too has stepped up and joined in with the newly soon-to-be AG-elect Letitia James. And both Mayor de Blasio and AG-elect Letitia James expressed outrage, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with the charges being dropped. So now we need to see what's going to happen with these officers, right? What's going to happen with the NYPD officers as well as the HRA, Human Resource Administration officers that were involved in this situation. I guess the head of the HRA said that they're going to definitely do some more training, and they're going to change their protocols in terms of when officers should contact the police, because they were the genesis for this interaction to begin with. They were the ones who, you know, panicked, if you will, or got all caught up in their feelings and contacted NYPD, and so then NYPD, you know, tag you're in. They came in and did the real dirty work. So there's going to be some training given, whatever that means, to these officers. What's important for me is that the top cop, the commissioner over there in NYPD, Commissioner O'Neill, while he said he was really bothered and disturbed by the video, he also said that, in his opinion, the officers did everything that they could to de-escalate the situation. Now, I don't know how Commissioner O'Neill could say that the officers did everything that they could in their power to de-escalate the situation, other than, well, there's going to be a lawsuit, I'm sure, down the road, right? And so Miss Hedley will probably no longer have to go to the HRA looking for food stamps when everything is said and done. And so Commissioner O'Neill knows that, and so he's not going to say that those officers messed up in a real way, which is what he should have said. I don't know how many wagons they're going to circle around those two police officers, but it sounds like they're kind of already starting to try to mitigate the behavior. You know that the Benevolent Police Officers Association over there, Pat Lynch, he hasn't seen a black abused that he can't get excited about, so he's good. Those officers have the support of their union, their police union over there, and it sounds like they have the support of Commissioner O'Neill. So I'll keep an eye on this, and I'll report back to you as I hear more information. I wanted to take a quick minute to just say thank you to some new subscribers on YouTube. I wanted to thank specifically Kimberly, Sharif, Judy, Sarah, and Jonathan, new subscribers on YouTube. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your interest, and tell a friend. I mentioned before that, you know, this is a difficult time of the year for many people, and I did a segment just on yesterday with Dr. Drew on KABC Talk Radio. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to hear it, but I will be uploading that interview on social media in the next few hours as well. But we talked about, where do police officers go when they get into trouble? And I'm talking mental health-wise trouble. When police officers have issues, who do they talk to and where do they go for help? So again, I just wanted to put out there that, people are in a bad way right now and people are hurting. And for those of you who may not already have the number for the suicide prevention hotline, you can also text and have someone in the U.S. 24/7 that will talk back to you. And to text the suicide crisis line in the United States, it's 741-741 on your cell phone. So I wanted to share that with you again. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is something that a story that came across, and this is for the state of Texas. Evidently, Texas, you guys know about this probably. There are loopholes in regards to police records being made public. There's a lot of consternation going around with regards to police releasing video of shootings, audio, whatever. And in Texas particularly, there's a loophole that allows governmental agencies, police agencies, to not make information available. And there was a nonprofit group who did a research study, and they found that there were 81 cases where police hid the records of shootings, officer-involved shootings, as well as in-custody deaths. And there is a legislator who's working to change that, but I just wanted to put it out there for my Texas family. If you didn't know about this loophole, pay attention, because you may very soon have an opportunity to vote on this. There was a report that the Texas Public Record Statute, this is the thing that shields the release of police records in cases where there's no conviction. So in other words, if someone dies, there's the way the law was written. If someone dies, then the information isn't made available because they can't attest to it, or they can't refute if information is wrongly put out there. And obviously, whenever there's a death, then that person is no longer here. So they use that, the fact that there's an in-custody death, there's a death because of a police shooting, to not release anything other than very summary police reports. They use that to not release things like video to families or to journalists, through FOIA and things like that. So because of this loophole, there is a legislator who is trying to pass a new statute. And these are the statistics that I found with regards to this loophole. It says that between 2003 and 2018, this loophole was used in at least 81 cases. That's between 2003 2018. According to the reports by the Texas Justice Initiative, there were 9,077 deaths. These are police custody deaths since 2005. And in 1997, the legislator passed this statute which has this loophole. So now, Representative Joe Moody, he's a Democrat in El Paso, he's introduced legislation that will close that loophole. And I don't know the number or the name of this particular legislation that Representative Joe Moody is trying to move through the system. But for Texas, pay attention to changes looking to be made with regards to, and here is the existing section, it's section 552.108, parenthetically A, parenthetically 2. That is the legislation that needs to be changed. And, I talk all the time about a lot of this stuff, if you really want change to happen, right, it happens at the ballot box. It happens when you have an opportunity to vote, when you have an opportunity to close loopholes, when assembly bills or Senate bills or whatever they call it in your state are being put forth by your legislators. When that happens, you need to pay attention and you need to make sure that you're there to vote with regards to legislation that will make readily available police videos whenever there's an in-custody death or a officer-involved shooting. The other thing that the other update that I wanted to give you, I talked about this, and I'll share the link. Remember a few weeks ago there was a young middle school student who had been roughed up by a school resource officer and a police officer in Louisiana. Well, evidently, because of pressure and because of an outpouring of outrage, if you will, that officer has been fired. Those two officers have been fired. And so, don't know what the charges were. Don't know the name of the officers because that's not made known. But nonetheless, these two Louisiana police officers have been indicted as a result of the surveillance tape that shows this 14-year-old kid in this middle school being, slammed around for whatever reason. And I don't know what happened before. I don't know what this little kid could have done. He was a slight little guy in stature, and this is a big old policeman. I don't know why he felt it was necessary to pick this kid up and slam him on the ground like a rag doll. But nonetheless, now he's no longer a police officer and has been indicted. And so when I find out a little bit more, I will continue to monitor that and let you know what's going on with that particular situation. Police officers are getting indicted. I mean, that's a start, right? You used to couldn't get a police officer indicted when he was cutting up. So, they're getting indicted, and every now and again, we're starting to hear about a conviction, like Roy Oliver, who shot and killed 15-year-old Jordan Edwards in Texas, and Michael Schlager, who shot and killed Walter Scott. So there are starting to be convictions, and, maybe eventually these over-the-top, out-of-control police officers understand that, it's a new day. Now to my second ask. Again, if you haven't already shared this on your timeline, please do share this. This ask is on behalf of the Terrence Crutcher family. I received an email on last week from the family of Terrence Crutcher. Dr. Tiffany Crutcher is his twin sister. And I received an email from her last week, and she was asking that this be done. And it's kind of a lengthy deal, but I'm going to also put this in the comments. And what the family is asking is this. Here's what they found out. Betty Shelby, and I talk about her all the time because she keeps coming up. There's things that are going on that folks need to know about. We need to not sleep on Betty Shelby. You know that she's allowed to teach how to get away with murder. She calls it how to survive a critical incident to law enforcement officials. And I guess it must be working out pretty good because I saw something that said she's actually stepping down from Rogers County Sheriff's Department as a reserve deputy so that she could do the thing full time. She means to make this her new career, right? She means to benefit financially on the death of Terrence Crutcher. And so what I'm going to share with you right now is my next ask. This is a letter that the family of Terrence Crutcher is asking everyone to send, because what the family has found out is this. Tulsa PD got some splaining to do because they knew before Betty Shelby was hired that she had a history. She had a violent history. And they didn't act on it. And they knew that she had been involved in some situations that involved domestic violence. There were restraining orders that had been placed against her because she had pulled a knife on her husband. Her children were, I guess, taken away and testified against her. And Tulsa PD knew all of this. They knew about all of that, and they hired her nonetheless. So the family believes that, they have some culpability because they unleashed this woman on an unknowing community when really she should have been disqualified at the hiring stage based on all of the things that she was involved in, based on the fact that there were restraining orders that had been taken out against her for she took a shovel to a car. She had stalked or somehow otherwise harassed the ex-wife of one of her many husbands, because she's got a few. I'll just leave that there. She's got a few. And Tulsa PD knew all of this. They knew all of this, and they hired her nonetheless. So the information is a cut and paste job, if you will, that I just posted. The family is asking that you contact the mayor in Tulsa, and evidently they also want this letter to be sent not only to the mayor, but also to the, I guess they call them districts, to the various districts there, and they're numbered 1 through 9. So if you would send this letter, and I'm going to add each person that needs to get a letter, send it first to the mayor, and then CC these other council members, I guess is what you would call them. CC these other council members with this same letter. There's a place for you to add your name at the very end, and this would be very helpful to the family. So please do that. My second ask, very important. This is not time sensitive, but this is certainly something that the family would appreciate if folks were to send this letter out, right? I'm hoping, it's kind of long, so, bear with me. I'm hoping that you guys can see the link with the email addresses, mayor@cityoftulsa.org, and then all of the other districts that need to be CC'd. Remember, I always talk about a paper trail and, CC lottie-dottie and everybody. Well, this is one of those situations where you need to CC everybody at the request of the family of Terrence Crutcher. They are looking to have something put into place where a police department does not overlook these kinds of discretions, if you will, when they are looking to hire a police officer. Betty Shelby had demonstrated clearly that she was unfit. She demonstrated that she lacked impulse control, that she lacked good judgment. And with all of that, Tulsa PD hired her nonetheless. And on the heels of that, Rogers County Sheriff's Department hired her, knowing. So it's the family's hope that they can institute some sort of reform there in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, so that police officers who have a history similar to the history that Betty Shelby had does not fall through the cracks and get hired and then go on to do that thing, that awful thing that she did in taking the life of Terrence Crutcher. So please, please share that on your timeline. Do send that email forward and ask everyone that you know to do the same thing, and ask them to ask everyone that they know to do the same thing. The next story that I'm going to talk about involves my sister girlfriend. Her name is Cyntoia Brown, and Cyntoia was a police officer in Buffalo, New York. She was a police officer. And, I have people ask me all the time, why don't good cops tell, blah, blah, blah. Cyntoia Brown was a good cop who told. She was working with a police officer partner back in 2006, I believe, and her partner punched a handcuffed suspect, the long and the short of it. He punched a handcuffed suspect. She said something to him about, hey, what are you doing? He immediately punches her in the face. I think he broke her nose, and there was a whole big to-do. She wound up ultimately losing her job with 19 years on the job. And so for my law enforcement folks, you understand, to get terminated with 19 years on the job, yeah, that's awful. That's awful. But, every dog has his day. And so, Cyntoia, thank you for sharing with me the good news. Although this officer, her partner at the time, whose name was Greg Kwiatkowski, he lived to offend again. That incident that she reported happened in 2006, I believe. And he lived to offend again. He even went on to become a lieutenant. They promoted him. He was mistreating folks in such a way that it was worthy of promotion. And so he was promoted to lieutenant. But because every dog has his day, and sometimes, you get to see what happens. And so just here very recently, because of an incident that he was involved in 2014, involving some young black teens, he was just sentenced, he being Lieutenant Gregory, former NYPD Lieutenant Gregory Kwiatkowski, was just sentenced to federal prison for a term of 4 months for a violation of federal civil rights. Now, this incident happened in 2009, and it's taken them this long to work the thing through the system and to properly deal with this former lieutenant. He was able to retire. Unlike Carriel, she didn't get her pension. She wasn't able to retire. She tried to fight, and she has, she's still fighting, but it's probably unlikely, seeing that this happened in 2006, that she will ever have her pension reinstated or be brought back, for the few months that she would need to get to 20 years. But nonetheless, former Buffalo Lieutenant Greg Kwiatkowski sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. And the reason that he was ultimately sent is because he had responded as a lieutenant to a radio call. There were supposed to be four black teens who were shooting a BB gun at, and so this kind of has racial overtones, at some white kids. The officers had already detained these kids when Kwiatkowski showed up, and he started calling the teens savages and asking them, "Oh, so you like shooting at white kids, huh?" And then he just took each one of these kids and just slammed their head into the trunk of the car one by one. And because Greg Kwiatkowski, in my opinion, is a coward, he was willing to testify, or did testify, or offered to testify against those officers to save his own ass. And I don't know that this is a good thing, because those officers were there and they may have acquiesced the misconduct that he committed, but nonetheless, the officers were not charged. And of all the people involved in that incident with these 4 teens back in 2009, former Buffalo Police Lieutenant Gregory Kwiatkowski is on his way to federal prison for the next 19 years. I'm sorry, for the next 4 months. Yeah, he's going for the next 4 months. So, every now and then, a dog has his day, and you get to see what happens. It's unfortunate that, he was able to live to offend again and to hurt these young boys, and I don't know how scarred they may or may not be because of it. Thankfully, they didn't lose their life as a result of his misconduct. But, these are the kinds of things that, we need to speak forcefully about and mightily about when they happen, because I'm of the opinion, and they never let me down, when a police officer does something that makes national news, is generally not the first time. Folks don't start off, police officers don't start off, shooting people. They start off like this Greg Kwiatkowski, slamming folks' head over the hood of a car, or talking harshly to people, or being very aggressive with folks. That's usually how it starts. And then when they find out, I can get away with this, nobody's really paying attention, then it escalates to something, awful, and makes national news, and then the police chiefs are all clutching their pearls as if, oh my God, who knew? When they knew all along. So, when you see something, say something, right? Let's not just fuss about it on Facebook. Reminder as I go out the door, thank you all for coming. Reminder as I go out the door, Christmas is coming, so I got a great idea for stocking stuffers, y'all. Stop by my website, www.sergeantcheryldorsey.com, and pick up my book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Manifesto. And if you're not sure if it's for you, the good thing about my website is you can actually read the first chapter. You can read the first chapter in its entirety for Volume 2, The Creation of a Social Advocate, and you can also read the first chapter of my soon-to-be-released third book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Whistleblower. So, make sure you do that. For those of you who are YouTube subscribers, tell a friend. Make sure that you like this video. I've got several things. I didn't just start speaking. I'm starting to get a lot of memories on Facebook about appearances that I've made on CNN and HLN TV and others with regards to shootings that were going on, that were the nexus, if you will, for me coming out and speaking in the first place, because a lot of this stuff happened. Well, there was a spate of deadly shootings and deadly in custody situations beginning in 2014, right? Everybody knows Eric Garner happened first, then Mike Brown here in LA, Ezell Ford, Tamir Rice, John Crawford. I talked about John Crawford the other day because I'm getting these memories where you're seeing me speak on CNN. And for those who don't know, who are new, welcome. If you would like to hear what I have been saying since 2014, you can do that by subscribing to my YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and you can go and look at some of the old videos where I was interviewed with regards to those shootings that I just named off, Mike Brown, John Crawford. And you know the thing about John Crawford that bothers me so much, because it was about this time not last year, but in 2014 when John Crawford, young man who entered a Walmart, picked up a BB gun that they had for sale in the Walmart. Police were called because some guy said there's a man in here loading up a shotgun, and the police came and didn't even have a conversation with John. They just shot him and killed him. And the person that was with him was his then girlfriend at the time. And, you know, that was in November of 2014. And the police were questioning her, and they were really being very heavy-handed with this young woman. And then by January of the following year, January 2015, this young woman was involved in a car accident. She was killed. She was the only witness to that police officer-involved shooting with John Crawford. So now you've got John Crawford who's gone, and you've got the only witness, his girlfriend, also killed in a car accident. And so, you know, that's one that really troubles me, one that I really struggle with. And if you are interested in hearing what I was saying about that and everything else that followed in 2015, 2016 up until now, you can see that actually and factually nothing has changed. So we've got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot going on next year I'm really excited about. I will tell you this, Florida, get ready. I'm coming to you first in 2019. So as the date gets a little closer, I'll talk about the venue where I'm going to be and the possibility of me maybe sticking my head in another door here or there once I do make it to the state of Florida. So until next week, be good and be safe.